college football rooting interest. Here we go. Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank. Which of these games? I'm sorry. Let me reset that. Your fiery hot take is what it's going to be, and it's brought to you by Double D Piping. Which of these games does Tennessee most need to have happen? A, and B, which is the most likely? Caleb, share your thoughts if you don't mind. I think everybody points to Ohio State, Indiana, correct?
Dave, you are probably the worst. You probably were the worst Christmas giver of all time, right? You probably spoiled the surprise for your kids on like Tuesday, the week before Christmas, didn't you?
I actually did. Yeah, I just couldn't hold the surprise. Yeah, no, that's funny you mentioned that.
I'm trying to build up to the biggest games, and Dave's like, "Nah, just go all in, man, right now." And I'm like,
other ones. Give me other ones. Okay, let me ask you this: is it Ohio State big over Indiana or bust?
That's a tier 2 game this week, but it's the most likely one for Tennessee.
Okay.
So I told you guys, I separate these games of rooting interest by tiers each week. I'm going to start with games that you theoretically want to root for, but you could be wrong. Does that make sense? Like you could be wrong in your rooting interest.
Pipe dreams.
Well, no, what I mean is you think you want something to go a certain way, but it could work against you if other things break a certain way the rest of the way. So let me give you an example. Alabama and Oklahoma. You theoretically want Oklahoma to beat Alabama, right? Because that knocks them out and that moves you up. And also just because they're Alabama, right?
Mm-hmm. Go for it. All right.
Here's the problem.
I think you want Alabama to win.
No, because if Oklahoma, it doesn't hurt your schedule strength technically because Oklahoma is a team you played.
Well, that's true.
And also, Alabama, if they lose, they're going to drop below you. So then you're in. You move up. Here's the problem, guys. And this is kind of an underrated point. I know where you're going with it. If Alabama does lose, what quality win can Tennessee hang its hat on at that point?
I mean,
they have a bunch of solid wins, but they don't have an elite quality win.
I agree. Who's next? Who are we rooting for?
So this is the tier 1. So there's you want Oklahoma to beat. So you think you want Oklahoma to beat Alabama, but be careful what you wish for. You think you want UMass to beat Georgia, not happening. But be careful what you wish for if they did. And then for teams you would want to face in the college football playoff, you want Boise State to beat Wyoming and UNLV to beat San Jose State because you'd rather face them than Army. And unfortunately, if you're a Tennessee fan, you have to root for Army this weekend. So that's tier 1.
Why do you say unfortunately? I always root for the armed services. What is wrong with you? You're so anti-American.
Yes, I hate the troops. I don't, guys.
Caleb not only didn't vote, but he protested against each presidential nominee during the day. He just went back and forth because he's anti-American. I'm joking. Caleb, go ahead.
I think protesting presidential nominees, whoever they are, is very American, actually. But
I do too, but not voting for mass chaos in them both.
I mean, I wrote in Karl Marx, guys. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Okay, so this is tier 2, which is these are games that they're teams that really aren't in Tennessee's way right now to make the college football playoff. But if things break a certain way, they could be. So they're kind of pesky, annoying teams. So you just kind of want them to lose to get out of the way. And that is Utah over Iowa State. You want Kansas to beat Colorado. You want the Citadel to beat Clemson. Not happening, but you do. You would love to see Wake Forest beat Miami. You want to see Arizona State beat BYU. And you would love to see Virginia beat SMU because you don't want a one-loss SMU whining at the end of the year. Be like, we have one loss and we're better than 2-loss Tennessee. Even though they're not.
Hit thumbs up if you feel strongly about that voice, whether you like it or dislike it. Hit thumbs up. We got a lot of people in the YouTube chat that have not hit thumbs up yet, so it really helps us spread the word. We appreciate it. Who's next, Caleb?
All right, tier 3. Or I guess I'm counting down. Tier 5, tier 4, now tier 3. Games that'll help Tennessee schedule strength. You'd love to see Mississippi State beat Missouri. Probably not happening, but you'd love to see it. You want NC State to beat Georgia Tech. And you really want Arkansas to beat Louisiana Tech because that'll get them to a bowl game so the loss won't look as bad. And it'd be great if Vanderbilt beat LSU if you're a Tennessee fan. That would just be a dream if Vanderbilt beats LSU because then you could really get a chance at a quality win next week. So that's schedule strength. Now,
I'll tell you what, too, that's doable because Vanderbilt still has a lot to play for. where they go bowling, and I think they will go bowling. What are they, 6-4?
They're already going bowling.
Well, I mean, it's to now. So from now, it's whether or not you go to Liberty Bowl and that dump Memphis that you're from, or you go to a good game like. And when I say good game, I mean like the Belt Bowl in Charlotte. I'm not saying they're going to suddenly jump up to the Citrus or Orange Bowl.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you just don't want to go to Memphis.
Okay, Dave. All right. So this is tier 2. I will say you don't really want to go to the Liberty Bowl right now. It's under construction, and all the stuff you said is horrible about it. They're fixing it up, but it's Memphis and Nashville, both their football stadiums, because Vanderbilt Stadium are both under construction right now. But okay, so
by the way, an SEC school having a stadium under construction in this modern day and age of architecture and being able to get stuff done is the biggest head scratcher in the world. Now, I will say the last time I've heard of this happening was 2001 as Florida was redoing its press box, which is why I had to stand on the damn sidelines and I couldn't see anything. Go ahead, Caleb.
All right, so now we're at the top 2 tiers. These are the ones that you want for Tennessee for the college football playoff. These are the upsets you need to happen. So starting with, this is tier 2. These are just teams you would love to see lose to get out of your way. Auburn over Texas A&M. Texas A&M visits Auburn. That's not an undoable upset, Dave. And I know Texas A&M is behind Tennessee, but Tennessee's really going to want Texas A&M to beat Texas next week. But if Texas A&M beats Texas, they could jump Tennessee. So you really want Auburn to beat Texas A&M this weekend. Army over Notre Dame, self-explanatory, right? No really explanation needed.
Yep.
After that, yes, Ohio State over Indiana. That's like you want Ohio State to beat the brakes off Indiana. Get Indiana out of the way. Steve Sullivan, I am not from Millington or Cordova. I'm actually from East Memphis. I was raised in the city. Thank you. Okay, I wasn't raised in the burbs.
What's that? Yeah, he's like a Germantown guy. What's the spread right now for, and how likely is it that Ohio State just absolutely hammers Indiana? Our what to watch, games to watch, brought to you by our friends at Double D Pipe.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
All right, Caleb. So what is the spread there, and what is the likelihood that Ohio State just lays the Buckeye on the Indiana Hoosiers?
Okay, Ohio State is a 13.5-point favorite. But Dave, I think they're capable of laying the Buckeye. I have a theory. I don't think they're going to. I think Ohio State.
You know why?
They don't want to.
Nope. I think the coaching staff on one sideline is significantly smarter than the coaching staff on the other sideline.
Oh, I agree with you on that. Indiana's got a better coaching staff. But I also think that Ohio State, look, Indiana's not a good team. Ohio State would much rather one-loss Indiana get in than a 2-loss SEC team that is going to be significantly better. So I think Ohio State will actually actively not try to embarrass Indiana. So just watch out. There's one more game in this tier before we get to tier 1, Dave, though. And it's an underrated one if you're a Tennessee fan. You ready?
Why was I thinking that was tier 1?
No, tier 1 is, there are 2 big games that would help them the most. So Penn State's visiting Minnesota. Dave, you do know if Penn State loses, they have 2 losses, and they'll be behind Tennessee, right? Because they have no quality wins.
Yep.
That Minnesota game, Penn State's an 11.5-point favorite. At Minnesota, that's not a gimme. I mean, Illinois lost to Minnesota earlier in the year, and you know Penn State can choke. So I think, am I crazy, or are Tennessee fans not paying enough attention to Minnesota possibly beating Penn State as a path to the college football playoff?
I don't think you're crazy at all. And I think Penn State is a very average football team. I would tell you that Tennessee beats them and would be – okay, let me ask you, you're good at the power rankings. If they met on a neutral field, I would have Tennessee by about 5.5, 6. You?
Over Penn State?
Yes.
I'd probably go 3.5. And the only reason I'd say 3.5 is because Tennessee's more defensive oriented this year. Defensive teams win closer games. So, but I'm sympathetic to what you're saying. So yeah, I think Minnesota could beat them. And if that happens, there's no debate. Tennessee's in, Penn State's gone. And the only way they would put Penn State in over Tennessee at that point is to fulfill Dave's conspiracy theory of they want 4-4 or 4-5. They don't want 5-3, basically. So that's tier 2. You ready for tier 1 though? Two
Yes.
big tier 1 games. And then we'll discuss the likeliest ones. Florida over Ole Miss is the most rooting interest for Tennessee possible. That is a double whammy for Tennessee because Ole Miss is knocked out, and then Florida looks like a much better win for Tennessee at that point. And that's at Florida. I don't think that game is impossible. Do you?
No, I think you have to look at Ole Miss, and they've been very erratic this season. They've had a bad loss in Kentucky. They've had a great loss theoretically in Georgia. I think the biggest problem with this entire football season is there's not an elite team or two. I think there's a bunch of good teams. Now, Oregon may prove me wrong, and they may run through the college football playoff, but I'm always going to wait and believe that when I see it. But no, I think given the history, given the fact that DJ Lagway appears to be a very competent quarterback, if not a good quarterback, given the fact that this team has rallied behind Billy Napier, no. I mean, sounds weird to say for Florida, right? But this is kind of a season maker. If they were able to upset Ole Miss and knock them out, you look back at the year as maybe not a success, but not an utter garbage dumpster failure like it looked in September.
You look back and you say Florida sticking with Billy Napier against all the wins. What everybody we've had from Florida, Dave, that we've talked to has been like, they can't fire Billy Napier and they shouldn't. And they're all kind of, you notice they're all still defending Billy Napier, and they're saying that there's so many other exterior factors working against him that he's having to.
Well, you're talking about lately. Guys like we had on in September said, I'm not sure he makes it to the kickoff of Saturday's game.
If they win on Saturday, we maybe talk about this November as the November that turned the corner for Billy Napier in Florida. All the jokes we made. I mean, we would come back to this month.
No, I'll go a step further. I think he's going to be back, and I think the corner has already been turned. Now the question is, do you go around the corner and beat the heck out of the bully in the alley?
Yes, you're right. That's a good point. So that's a possible one. The other one, not as possible, but Kentucky's already done this once before at Ole Miss. But Tennessee fans should root like heck for Kentucky against Texas. Not going to happen, but, hey, pipe dream, right? But those would be the two most beneficial ones for Tennessee, is if Kentucky or Florida won. Now, between all these...
I don't know why you're just discounting that it could happen. I mean, again, they beat Ole Miss, and Ole Miss might have the best roster.
Yeah, but they're a team of mercenaries, as you've talked about, so they're more capable of a bad upset loss than Texas is at home. That's just where I'm at. Even though Kentucky...
September? I always make that argument after there's no championship to play for.
I feel like Kentucky's quit.
Okay.
On March 1st.
Maybe the case, but didn't we think that about Billy Napier? And we thought that about LSU too. We'll see.
We did. So, Dave, tell me if I'm right, though. There's a Mount Rushmore of games that Tennessee should watch the most, because even though 3 of them are tier 2, they are on the more likely scenario, and the tier 2 or tier 1 puts Tennessee in the playoff of upsets. So here's the 3 they should watch, or the 4 they should watch, excuse me. The 4 most important are Army, Notre Dame, right?
Yes.
Because that's possible. Ohio State, Indiana, goes without saying. Florida, Ole Miss, goes without saying. And Minnesota, Penn State. I think if one of those 4 goes the other way, then Tennessee's in the playoff next week. Right. And I think one of those 4 is, I mean, again, it's kind of like parlays, even though like one of those 4 is bound to happen in Tennessee's favor, right? That would be the worst luck ever if all 4 went against them. Like in one instance, they're rooting for a double-digit favorite. In the other instance, they're rooting for 3 underdogs. But what's the chance that the one double-digit favorite is the one that they're rooting for that loses, and the 3 underdogs all lose too? That would be you got to play coin flip here, but the chances are very, very much in Tennessee's favor.
I agree with that.